Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Drop Zone, episode 1 of this week. This is the USDGC and Throw Pink Women's Championship, where I'm going to try and break down a little bit of what we saw out there today during round number 1. I'm going to promise you guys a relatively short show here tonight. I know I say that all the time. Tonight should be legitimately on the shorter side, so we can just kind of recap quickly what we saw. Of course, people moving into position in terms of possibly finding themselves on a lead card, a chase card, and shuffling all around. Now it will be easier as the rest of the week moves on because we'll have those people already sorted out, and we'll see what can happen. So as always, I want to double check that everything is sounding and looking okay. I'm going to head over to my chat board and make sure that you guys are there and things are going all right. And from my only fan, Johnny V, who's here in studio, he's telling me that things are sounding and looking okay. So if that's the case, I still want to find the chat. Somehow I can't because I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm going to see if I can get there here in a second for you guys. Also, maybe it would help if a few people, were here and live and taking it all in. So what we have, excuse me, one-man show here, folks. Hold on. We'll see if I can get this going for my side. Oh, I don't want to hear me. All right, welcome in. All right, yes, from my only fan. That's Johnny V. So if you guys are saying that it's all good, everyone says it's all good on your end. Dustin out there, hey, Terry, couldn't watch anything today, so counting on you and Charlie on his after-round show for the upshot. Yeah, if you want something good, I would go check out Charlie's, however, or wherever he did his. We'll probably have a few similar, but maybe some different takes when it was all said and done. So what I want to do is right off the bat, of course, we'll stick with some questions near the end, and I'll try and watch along with that. But I want to quickly just take a look at what we saw during round number 1. And I want to start on the throw pink side, which, if I do this right, will bring it up here for you guys. Throw Pink got started this morning. Just a few basic details and things for you guys to remember. Of course, this is not a major. I know that could be a highly contested conversation for another day. This is not a major. This is played at Winthrop with essentially the same course. Of course, there's shorter tees. There might be a couple different baskets, but they're playing at the Winthrop Arena out on the property, but this is not considered a major. Just keep that in mind. Let's just start with some of the basics, though. What we saw out there today, which I think is absolutely incredible. We saw Evelina Salonen out there in the lead, and that was after she got off to a slow start with the bogey on hole number 1. And for the most part, played pretty darn good golf from there on out. I was really impressed with what we saw. You compare and contrast that to her good friend Henna. And Henna started out with 3 consecutive birdies to get her round started. Then she took a few pars and then, of course, had a pretty solid stretch there in the middle. Very impressive. And I think one of the conversation pieces that is the elephant in the room is everyone will talk about what is going on with their putting. How does their putting look? Where's the confidence? And is that, could it possibly rear its ugly head and then, ultimately be their demise? Right now, things are looking pretty darn good for both of them. And what we're seeing from Henna is that she had a bogey-free day. I think if we scroll down, I can't imagine there were too many, if any, other bogey-free rounds as we're scrolling down, thanks to our friends at UDisc. And, yeah, not seeing any other bogey-free rounds out there. I don't care who you are. When you have that much out of bounds and you have the spectators, you have the feel of a major, you have everything else going on a course, and that you can somehow still remain bogey-free, that definitely is a win in itself. So congratulations to her for doing that. She was just 20% from C2 putting. I'm talking about Henna now. She was 20%, 79% C1X, and it shows that she was 91% for her fairway hits. Evelina, the one blemish, she also did have the eagle, though, on 9, which is a very soft and attackable par 4. Many of you know that. But overall, she looked really solid out there today. She did have 75% C1X putting, so she could improve a little there. Also, though, 0 out of bounds strokes. Insane. She did have the bogey, but 0 out of bounds, and I think that's pretty incredible. She didn't convert at all from circle 2. Obviously, there's an area of opportunity when you're taking a look at the scorecard. Rounding out the, I'll say the international contingency in this case, Kristen Tatar doing some work herself, putting together a string of, I believe that was 7 birdies in a row. I think I overheard on the broadcast also the longest string of birdies that we've seen this year. So at least we're at this course. This course this year? Well, this course and this year. 7 birdies in a row. Incredibly impressive what she was doing out there. And that was all technically on the end of a bounce back after she had taken the bogey on hole number 4. And another stat that has to just jump off the page at you as you're looking at this is you're seeing, I was going to say the C1X putting, it's just C1 putting technically. Look at the 5-footer, 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 that's 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Like through hole 10, she didn't convert from outside of 5 feet. Then she has on hole 11, she makes the circle 2 putt to save the par. And after that, then she had everything else inside the circle. She still had 3 out of bounds strokes on her scorecard, of which only one of them resulted in a bogey, and that was on hole number 15. So Evelina, Henna, both OB free. Kristen has 3 of them and is 3 off of the lead. That's just some really quick, easy math. Clearly, birdies weren't the challenge out there for them today for the most part. And then another really amazing story that we're seeing the 16-year-old, Ellie-Ezra Mittling. I got to think about those for a second because this is my first time really pronouncing and talking about her. And you probably saw the interview that I had done with her. I talked to her just before the interview for a few seconds. I said, I want to double check your name. Then we talked about it even during the interview. And her and her mom, I've said it before, incredibly gracious and kind. They had some very kind words. They apparently like my broadcasting and some of the things that I do on my channel. So if they happen to be out there watching, I appreciate you guys. But the story, one of the biggest stories of the day, certainly what Ellie was doing out there. The fact that she shot a 6 under and she had that incredible stretch in the middle, putting all those birdies together. And now you just heard what I talked about with the OBs from the previous 3 ladies. You see that Ellie had 4 OBs on the day and ultimately had 4 bogeys. Now, only 2 of her OBs led her to bogeys. She was able to get pars on holes 5 and on hole 8 where she had gone out of bounds both times, which tells you that she was still playing the hole relatively well, minus, of course, the out-of-bounds stroke. So you clean that up a little bit. Again, you're looking at a pretty solid day. 4 bogeys for her today, 4 OBs. Compare that to what you see in the top 3 women, who only had 3 bogeys combined, and then Ellie had 4 on her day. So it jumps right off the page as to where some of the most obvious areas for improvement can be. So much easier said than done, right? The fact that you're trying to stay inbounds on that course and you're trying to play just the facility itself with all the added challenges. Now, let me say this quickly. It was a day for scoring out there. I don't think there's anyone that would deny that with what we saw overall. The conditions were near perfect, and I think that was an underlying story throughout today, and it might be throughout the weekend. It's projected to get a little bit colder as the weekend rolls on, but overall, for what we're seeing, you have to be happy with the what we've been given here and what's been forecasted. Let's just knock on wood, play pretend, do whatever we need to do. Let's just hope that we get some of that good weather. You know what else we can hope for? Some of our friends. I've got to thank a couple people before I continue on. I want to talk a little bit of Chase Card. Tonight, we were over at Slow Play Brewing, who is a sponsor and a partner of the United States Disc Golf Championship and Throw Pink. And I just wanted to quickly show off. I'm going to have to give these away. You guys are going to have to find me so I could possibly give some of these away. This isn't not necessarily my style, But they do have these, and yeah, I would like to see what we can do. Somebody needs to be treated to a few of these. The artwork, look at that artwork. That specifically is commemorating and highlighting the 25th anniversary here of the USDGC. Throwing aces, yeah, 7.1%. I'm going to see if I can read. I feel like I'm getting old. Do I need some kind of glasses? I swear the light's not good in here. Hazy India Pale Ale, brewed with, oh my gosh, Amarillo. I can't read that. Comet? What's Comet? Does that say Comet? Seriously? Yeah. Anyway, little IPA action. With that, and I fully disclose this, they were gracious enough to offer me that. With that, I also do have myself a nice, beautiful glass. Let's see if I can get that to actually focus for you guys. Over at Slow Play, we're all friends in disc golf here, and I told them since they don't have an Imperial Stout or something barrel aged, I got to go to Old Faithful, and that, of course, we're talking about Backwoods Bastard. But we're going to put it in a Slow Play glass. I'm good with that. What a compromise. What can I say? Life is grand. All right, let's get back to the action. I do want to talk about what we're going to see on the chase card, who we're going to see there, what they have to do in order to remain contenders here. Evelina already out in front at that 11 under, Henna at 10, Kristen at 8, then a little bit of that gap to Ellie as she's at 6 under. But Onscoggins, Alexis Mundahano, along with Katie Asalu and Missy Gannon and Holland Hanley, quite a cluster of competitors all sitting at that 4 under. And then right behind them, Haley King, along with Allie Smith, are sitting at 3 under. Jennifer Allen, Emily Beach, Haiti Laine, Macy Valadillas, all at 2 under. And we'll round out the other under par women in Sarah Holcomb, Valerie Mundahano, Ella Hansen, and Sophie, all also under par. So a great start. That's all I keep saying and keep thinking about is Evelina and Henna, where they started. And then Kristen obviously is going to remain in that conversation, but you saw a little bit of this separation in the very first round. You think back to U.S. Women's, we saw a little bit of separation, and then they continued to pull away. And you have to wonder if that's what we're going to see here this weekend. It's just one round in, so you can't get too far ahead of ourselves, but it is something worth considering. The other thing I want to quickly do, if I think I can click on the right button here, let's see if I can go to the win probability. Nothing maybe more than a timestamp or something interesting to make note of at this point. Truly, it feels like it means almost nothing as to what they are giving us for a win probability. However, just worth maybe as a timestamp to see. Kristen is currently listed at a 76% win probability. Henna at 9%, Evelina at 8%, Own at 3%. It's wild. It's clearly the algorithm and the iterations that they run and the respect that they give to the best player in the world. So clearly this is just math doing math things. But to see Kristen down 3 strokes and then to see her with a 76% win probability and the next closest at 9. In fact, our second place contender at 9 and our leader at 8%. Wild. Just shows you exactly where these overall probabilities will place the world champ Kristen, 2-time world champ Kristen. It's just incredible to see. All right, let's take a look, and I'm sorry I haven't been paying attention to the board just yet, but let's take a look at what we're going to see on the MPO side. Now, maybe not your guesses, and that's no slight to any of them, but if you showed me your pick six, if you showed me that, I don't know that it would necessarily line up with what we're seeing here. And with that, I'm going to switch over if I can. I want to switch over to see that our leaders, as I scroll back up, we'll go back to round 1 and see what we saw. how it all went down. Our leaders, like the women, put together a lot of stuff in the middle of the course. We know what 17 can do to you. We know what 18 can do. 18's playing harder than ever before. I get that. But if you look at the midsection, and I don't normally invite you to do that around me, but if you look at the midsection of this course, you see just a lot of blue. It's kind of in that 7 to 11 stretch for the most part. That's where it seems obviously that gets a little bit weighted then as well because of hole 10, and you know that a lot of players are going after that for the eagle. 9, you hear a lot of players talking about how they can go after that one without problems. On the FPO side, it plays as a par 4, and some said, well, I'm just going to lay up and take the easy birdie. So that 9, 10, 11 area, just if there's one consistent part on the course where you see a lot of blue as you scroll down, that 9, 10, and 11 area. Obviously, there's plenty of scoring opportunities. Every hole is birdieable. But that midsection, keep that midsection in mind. Got to echo the same thought, though. Gorgeous day out on the course today. Just ideal scoring conditions overall, if you ask me. And a lot of players mentioned just that. If the winds stay down, at least for another day or two, you would expect that we're going to see similar scores and similar results. Joel Freeman, your outright leader. I'll wholeheartedly admit that when I talked to him and interviewed him kind of early on in our broadcast that we banked and then showed you later, I wasn't guessing that Joel would still be in the lead with 10, that he'd be in the outright lead at 10. I am surprised by that because I expected to see others catch him. But he had a great round. He had the relatively slow start, just getting birdies on 5 and 6, and then just destroyed the pack 9. I mean, yes, he ended with a bogey on 18, and one of the biggest takeaways for me there is when he was talking about 18, he said, I didn't really throw a bad shot there. I just got a bad result. He said, I was actually really happy with the drive that I threw. However, it just got on edge and it rolled away. He said, I wouldn't change it. If I could rethrow it, I'd throw the exact same shot. It just happened to get away from me. So I knew I was throwing good shots is exactly what he told me. So really impressive to see what he did out there. I don't think anyone's surprised forehand, backhand combo that he has. You're not surprised to see the results in which he put up on the board today. 90% C1X and then 50% from C2. So nice work out there by Joel. And I think bring you guys back to looking at some more of these. Sullivan Tipton, Sully, out there doing work. Also got a chance to talk to him. He was just 70% C1X putting. I mean, if you really know where you could or would expect to have a little improvement, the 70% C1X would jump off the page at you. Other things you saw, he took the back-to-back OB shots on holes 11 and 12, one of which resulted in a bogey, one of which resulted in a par. And what I really liked about both Sullivan and I'll tie him with Robert Burridge, who we're also seeing here. As we click on that, we see Sullivan, and then we also see Robert Burridge here. They said, I'm playing conservative. I'm playing for par or just playing really conservative and not aggressive. And they said it when they rattled off the holes. They said holes 3 and hole 6 and hole 12. They both said that without talking to one another. I thought that was really interesting to hear. And you see what they did on that hole. Burridge took his par on 3, a par on 6, and he bogeyed 12. And then Sully took a bogey on 3, a par on 6, and he bogeyed 12. And it's uncanny how similar those two rounds were in that sense when you look at some of these very specific holes out there, and then later on hearing what their game plan was. Really interesting to hear. And then on fire, I mean, just look at the midsection again of this course and then some by Kyle Klein. Just destroying the middle. When you add all those up, I don't even know how many that is. What, 4 through 15? So is that 10 or 11 birdies or birdie/eagle? Just absolutely destroying it there in the middle of the course. And I think one of the most crazy or exciting things is both Joel Freeman and Kyle Klein, both very slow starts. Like, look at what Joel was doing. Joel was even through 4. Kyle Klein was he 1 over through 4, and yet they're both on the lead card. Joel talked about that for a brief moment, just saying, "Hey, I'm not necessarily worried about that when something like that happens, and I just have to continue to play my game." And clearly, he did just that to close things out. And then we're just going to round out the chase card and a few of the other scores. So many people obviously in contention here. You can't count out anyone whatsoever. But on the chase card, you got James Proctor, who shot an 8 under with 2 bogeys. He also had the eagle on 10. Then you have Matty O, Andrew Marweed, Evan Smith, and Joey Anderson, Joey Buckets, who I had a quick conversation with. He's stoked. Joey, I hope you're out there, and I hope you got to enjoy the concert. He said he was leaving Rock Hill and going into Charlotte tonight for a concert for him and his brother. I don't remember the band. He goes, you probably don't know the band. I'm like, I guarantee I don't know who you're going to see. And now it's driving me crazy because I don't remember who it was. It was some one word like purple or something like that. I don't know. Hope you enjoyed the concert, Joey, and I hope you're ready to go for round number 2 tomorrow. Also, a couple of notables there. Right below Joey Buckets, you've got Anthony Barella along with Calvin Heimberg, Chris Dickerson, Casey White, Rasmus, all shooting, what were they at? 6 under, excuse me. And then Simon Lizotte, James Conrad, Bradley Williams, Aaron Gossage, Isaac Robinson, Jacob Curtis, a.k.a. Cupcake, Gavin Babcock, Tristan Tanner, and Hjalte Jensen. Oh, my gosh. That is a 9-way tie for 15th. A 9 times. A little Ferris Bueller reference for you. 9-way tie for 15th. Wild. So, just for the sake, again, we'll call it a timestamp, call it what you will. Let's take a look at how the course played. If we take a look at our course statistics, and one of the things I just like to just generally look at when you see here is that the round averaged, course stats, the round averaged 1.06 under par. So 1.06 under par. And then you can see the scoring distribution. I talked about the middle section of the course. Well, there's, see how little hole 3 was birdied, and then you see kind of where people were doing a lot of the scoring there in the middle. Interesting to see. Let's quickly, just because it's only, is it a click away? I think it's just a click away. Let's look at the women's scoring distribution. Ooh, I think that'll work. All right, I got a click or two. The course stats will bring you to, again, hole 9, 8, 9, 10, kind of that middle section. Hole 18, relatively easy for the women to attack. Ellie, the only woman to ever take an eagle 3 there. So that would be a birdie on the men's side because it's the same tee, same pin, just a different par. But when we take a look at what we're seeing on the women's side, different course and everything else, again, this is just more for a timestamp and not a curiosity. Somebody should remember this for tomorrow for me. The course played .55 over par. So 69.55 is the number. Take it for what you will. Tomorrow, I bet you it's lower. Again, assuming we're going to see similar weather conditions, I'm guessing it's going to be lower. And I think it'll be lower on the men's side as well. That's, I don't know. Call that an educated guess. Call that just obvious logic. If it's not windy out, I think we're going to see a relatively even better scoring day. And again, everyone now has a round under their belt. They're a little bit more comfortable with the track. They've seen what it plays like competitively. They're sorted by scores, so your groups maybe aren't quite as crazy and mixed up and I don't know, random. All of those things will be part of what we're going to see tomorrow. So pretty cool. I don't have a lot of additional breakdown and analysis. The only other things that I can maybe dive into for a brief moment, one, we saw that the coverage available on YouTube. Pretty sure that goes away the rest of the weekend. I don't make any of these decisions, clearly I didn't check with anyone, but I'm pretty sure that goes away for the rest of the weekend, and it's going to be exclusive to Disc Golf Network. I don't know what the post-production schedule is. I know that's been posted somewhere. I wish I had it in front of me. That would be something that'd be great for you guys, but I'm sure you guys are well aware of what's going on in terms of the post-production. So that's something that that we can talk about, or that we know is going to happen for the rest of the week, is that we're going to see it on Disc Golf Network. Next thing, we saw Ken Climo in the booth. I mean, that was a headline story for essentially the last day or two, is that Ken Climo in the booth and part of the broadcast team. I feel like it was mentioned loud and clear that the 3-person MPO broadcast booth felt a little busy or a little congested at times. There's lots of other ways to word that, and a lot of people had a lot of very strong opinions. I'm not about to pass any judgment on it, but I think we're going to see maybe some pacing, and we'll see just that flow work itself out, I'm guessing, throughout the next few days. I know, and Dustin, who's on the board, works in esports, works in disc golf commentary, is saying people just don't realize how hard it is to balance 3 people in a booth. I completely agree with you. I'm occasionally in a 3-person booth. I've been in a booth alongside Valerie Jenkins, along with Zoe Andyke. I've been in a booth with Valerie Jenkins and Hannah Macbeth and myself. And then I've been in a booth occasionally, not as often, well, yeah, once in a while, with Nate Dawson, Nate Sexton. It's 100% true. There is a special balance that's tougher to do so when it's 3 versus 2. There's a number of things that need to click and essentially go right and be done well in order for it to work out. I think we're going to find, as more 3-person booths have been attempted in the last couple of years, I think there's still a matter of finding like that magic formula and the magic people to be part of that. I think 3-person booths can be pulled off very well. I think sometimes they're a struggle. I think who's in them makes it a challenge. And I think sometimes a 2-person booth could greatly benefit from a third, depending on who the third is and who the existing 2 are. There's so many different ways to look at it. And I'm just going to hold back and wait to see if it's going to work out. And again, we've got 3-person booths in both scenarios on MPO and FPO. Charlie, along with Juliana, along with Zoe, all doing the FPO, or Throw Pink, doing the FPOs in the morning. And we've seen it at Worlds. I believe Nate Doss, Ian, and Philo at Worlds, so on and so forth. So we've seen different combos, different people, and I think there's still something to be worked out. I don't think I'm offending anybody, especially him. I don't think I'm offending Philo when I say it seemed like he was excitable today. He seemed really, really excited and jacked up and ready to talk disc golf, maybe more than normal. And that certainly was part of the dynamic that I think challenged the booth today. I have no guesses other than just like raw excitement as to how he arrived at that. But tomorrow we'll see if there's a slightly different kind of mentality and or approach to it when it's all said and done. But he definitely was excited, I think, is the word that I would use in that case. So first day with Kenny, Philo, and Ian all together. I think the other 3 on the FPO side have worked together. I'm pretty sure they have in the past. This is the first day. Technically, the 3 of them were together on the USDGC side, and hopefully everything gets worked out as we continue to move on. People seem to really love the insight that we got from Kenny. There's no surprise there. As Kenny has been known as one of the smartest golfers, and clearly there's the skills to win 12 world titles. But he's also just been known as one of the smartest golfers. He's got an insane memory. And just the way that he's always approached the game. I'll kind of paraphrase like a story of sorts or shorten it. But essentially, I just remember there was one event when he was talking about the wind on a particular hole and how it was reacting to discs, but in actuality, he had said he noticed the wind like 6 holes earlier, or how many ever holes earlier, when he was in that general area of the course, and he was taking notes at that point. And I know you may think, well, this just seems obvious. Not to everybody. Just the fact that he was, analyzing things. And he's the first guy to notice and say things about, well, the grass is playing this way during this time of day. And here's what it did in practice. And there's so many more things that I felt like he analyzed and took in as part of the game more than most players. And clearly that's part of what led him to being as successful as he was. And he threw the Frisbees pretty damn well. But he was outsmarting a lot of players on the course. And I think that was just part of his gift. And I also think he has an above average memory and just an above average, more than above average disc golf IQ. And I think that probably translates a little into golf and him playing golf and knowing about, not knowing about golf, but also being a solid golfer, with the stick and ball thing, whatever they do. So really impressive overall. Founders, in my slow play cup, you've done it. You've done it right. Let's get that fully focused there. The slow play Brewing. Am I a shill for them? Maybe. They're good. They're a good time. The putting competition, I'm going to segue over to that quickly because it's something you don't know about today. They have a regular weekly putting competition over at Slow Play. Tonight went down as always. I was there last year for it. Of course, I saw Brian Schweberger there last year, so I'm there this year. Corey Ellis took it down last year. This year, he was in the running and very much in contention. It sounded like he was near perfect with his putting. Unfortunately, his partner wasn't quite as perfect as he was, but it was pretty darn close. Nate Hecker, I believe, was ultimately the winner who took it down tonight, him and his partner, and Nate celebrating his 22nd birthday today. So I don't know if it gets any better than that you go to a putting league, you defeat one of the best putters on the planet in Corey Ellis and a teammate, and it's your birthday, and you take down the putting league. Sounds like a damn good time. Following that, as soon as the putting was officially concluded, there was a throw-off for anyone that was in the putting league. There was about 100. They said 130 feet. I feel like it was longer, but it was 130 feet. And everyone that had participated in the putting league was eligible to then also do the throw-off. And 8, 10, 12 people had thrown. Spoiler alert. The next person to step up with a forehand, Leah Sinigini. And she rifles it in, smashing the chains, landing in the basket. Yes, it's on my Instagram. Yes, it's on Slow Play's Instagram. Leah's going to have a copy of it. But, yeah, Leah Sinigini slams it in. It stays. And then she collects $390. What? $390 for her effort. So congrats to Leah Sinigini. No one else then went on to get the ace, so she didn't have to split it with anyone. And I'm sure she tipped her waiters and waitresses and the staff quite well over there at Slow Play. So not a bad day for Leah Sinigini, at least tonight. I'm not sure where we saw her on the scores. I think she was one of the qualifiers, I believe, that just got into the tournament on Monday. Can I do a search? Is Leah, she fully there and ready to go? Leah. No, maybe Leah didn't actually make it in. She tried to qualify. Okay, I was mistaken. I think she tried to qualify on Monday and didn't get in on qualifying. So, not gonna lie though, $390 for a single shot tonight. Not bad. Okay, I think that's everything. We're at 35 minutes where I've kind of high level briefly recapped most of your top contenders on relatively high level. I want to read a few questions, get a few answers out there. Just again acknowledge our friends and throwing aces. Excuse me. over at Slow Play, because I got to give these away, folks. I mean, if you're here this week, somehow we're going to have to find a way to get you one of those. Or go in and support them yourself. Of course, you could purchase it, as they are sponsors and supporters of disc golf and specifically of the event. So I want to read a few questions, answer those, and then cut loose. Let's see what we have. I'm sorry, I'm going to look a little off camera to do so. And if you asked something earlier, I didn't see it, so ask it again or put it in there now, and I'll do my best to try and get it answered for you. There's more. Dustin had more conversation about traditional play-by-play, a host, and 2 color commentators, but one color is going to take a back seat at times. We saw some of that happening, and might be their first time. Yep. Should get Brian Schweberger in the booth sometime. I can't remember what tournament he was, but he did a really good job in the booth. That was with me. He wasn't in the booth. We were both out on the course doing consistent calls and check-ins and things of that nature. That's what you're maybe thinking of. And maybe he's done other stuff, but USDGC, the year he was injured, number of years ago, we were on the course together, and we were doing a bunch of calls and check-ins and conversations. That could be, if it's any time in semi-recent history, that might be what you're thinking of. And, of course, who wouldn't take more Schwebby all the time? So good call. Let's keep reading. Cheers, Buzzed Swan. Sorry if you're going to hear me drink. Our friends at Backwoods. This double barrel aged and oak bourbon barrels. Where do we come in at? This is like it's 11. This is 11%. That's been light for my most recent likings, but we'll take it. Founders, not an official sponsor, but I'd like them to be. All right. I'm going to read a few more. I can't read that that login, but serious question, Terry. Let's get serious. As if I'm not always. Why doesn't the booth go to Nate or you or Brian more in the field? It seems like you're out there and only get called on a couple of times. Like to hear more from the field. There's a couple layers to that. There's not like just a blanket, super easy, obvious answer. There's a couple layers to it. Let's just start with, first of all, the production loves to show something that's related to what we're talking about. And sometimes that's super easy to line up and to predict. And sometimes that's a bigger challenge and truly just not possible. And I'll give you an example. I feel like a few weeks ago or something, I had text into production and I said, hey, I've got a story about Ricky Wysocki's caddy, Fern, specifically. Talked to him before the round. I got a story about him, or a quote he said, actually. And production then loves to be able to kind of plan it where they would say, hey, after this, we're going to show Fern, in this case, Ricky's caddy, we're going to show him while Terry's talking about him. So throw it to Terry, after this next putt by someone else. That's kind of the ideal scenario. Where it gets complicated is sometimes when what they'll do is they'll show us a few shots and then something crazy will happen and we have something in replay that needs to get played, or we cut to something else, or we need to get a commercial break in or whatever. Like there's just so many moving parts in terms of then making it fit. I don't want to say eloquently, but making it fit seamlessly. That's the big picture. The other slightly smaller caveat to it is having stuff that's somewhat useful from the field. A question I'm trying to forever avoid, unless something's really crazy is going on, I try to avoid when I'm host I try to avoid throwing out to Brian, hey, what's the vibe out there? I mean, again, maybe something tense just happened, or they're exchanging stroke for stroke and things are crazy. maybe that's an appropriate question, but it's a really generic question. I feel like it's a poor one that I'm trying to never ask again personally. You want to be specific and ask a good question if you're in the booth that hopefully they can either expand on or they actually have an answer to. All of that can be tough. And then you're talking about the timing, because what we don't want to happen is somebody to say, hey Terry, what's going on with that tree on hole 6? It seems to be gobbling up everyone's disc. Is it cut lower this year? I don't know. These are really specific things. Or is it not cut or trimmed or something? But then we're actually showing a replay of Paul Oman, who's not playing this weekend, but I saw at the bar. Paul Oman making a 50-footer on hole 15. So that is part of the overall challenge. And then I think it's just a matter, honestly, sometimes of remembering you've got a person out there. It's really easy when play is going great, you're really into it, you're enjoying everything that's happening, you're fired up, you're excited, and everything seems pretty straightforward. So me and Nate Doss and Nate Sexton are just kind of vibing. We're just, going on. You almost can forget Brian Earhart's out on the course that has additional insight. But you have to kind of know what that insight might be without being too generic or too cheesy. That's a lot of stuff I know I just threw at you, but that's what goes through my mind. I can't speak for how everyone else does or doesn't do it, but that's what goes through my head. And now I've had the pleasure or the privilege of being both on the course as the guy that gets called on, and then being in the booth, the guy responsible to call on the person. And I think that sometimes helps my role in understanding what each person is supposed to be doing in those roles. I think sometimes if you don't have that happening, it can be a little bit tougher to fully recognize the significance. And I think as a company, we need to decide, do we want to focus more on the field reporters or not? Because I think we need to set a better, I don't want to call it a boundary. We need to set a better expectation of everyone then, based on if we feel like that field reporter, what their expectations are, what they're supposed to be doing. Because clearly sometimes you guys will also hear me say, and this isn't, again, a knock on anyone, but you'll hear Ian say, hey, Terry, where did that one go? Is that one out of bounds? And I happen to be just literally on the other side of the fairway. Like, he doesn't know that. He can't know that. And the disc slid out of bounds by 2 feet, but it's 300 feet away from me on the other side of the fairway, where it's like, that was just dumb luck. If I'm on the correct side of the fairway in that case, then I saw it go out right by my feet. But sometimes I don't see it any better than he does. I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully it provides some insight. So in a way, it's got to answer your question to some degree. In a perfect world, in my opinion, we would rely on our field reporters more. Whether I'm out there, whether it's Nate Perkins or Brian Earhart or whomever, Zoe Andyke, who's been out there. In a perfect world, I feel like if we're going to invest the time and the effort to have field reporters, I would love to be going to them much more, just generally speaking. It's just a matter of that timing. It can be a challenge. What's your favorite tournament this year? Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm always such a sucker for Worlds. It's just a moment. It's just, regardless of even the place, which is of course great at Brewster Ridge this year, but just Worlds is so impactful in your life. And for that reason alone, it's hard to not think about Worlds, but also any international. I mean, whether I've played it or filmed it or been part of it in any capacity, there's nothing in the world like international disc golf. Even on a mediocre course, even in a mediocre field, it doesn't matter. There's just a certain feeling you get when you go and you're international for disc golf in any capacity, whether that's media, whether that's caddying, whether that's playing or working. It doesn't matter. And I think that's just maybe one of my bigger life lessons, is just traveling in general is so insanely rewarding and incredible. I'll send you my address, Dust says. Yeah, send over this beer. And a few years ago, it was a few years ago, so that was probably it. Oh, probably talking about the Schwebby on the mic with me, which is a lot of fun. We need that ASMR. Me enjoying my beverages. How cool is it to have the champ back in the booth? Wasn't Spin TV European Open coverage the last time he commentated? I don't know if it was Spin TV European Open specifically. I feel like he sat in for a few holes during USDGC a few years ago. I don't know that if he's ever done full like 18-hole rounds in recent modern day coverage. So it was great. Darren says founder sponsored Gatekeeper Media. Yeah, and I hounded them and said, "Who the f's the contact?" I'm not trying to steal your sponsor, but I would love for them. Yeah, it was founders specifically that made me fall in love with barrel aged products, stouts or ales. Did you get some waffles and biscuits today? No. And you're referencing what Jay and Des Redding were telling us on the podcast the other night. I didn't go to that place, unfortunately, yet, but that doesn't mean it won't happen at some point. Sometimes you lose connection on the pass off and you get the long pause. That sucks. That just flat out sucks, Luke. Here's the two quick scenarios that happen more often than not. No, it's 100 times better than it was last year because we're using a different system, which is a little clunkier, but it works better generally. But what happens is I'm listening to usually Ian and Philo, in my case, listening to Ian and Philo, and Ian may say to me, "Hey, Terry, is that out of bounds?" Or, "Hey, Terry, what's the wind like on hole 7 here?" And I'll click on the microphone, and I'll say, "Yeah, it's actually, blowing left to right. Yesterday it was the opposite, and it's up to 25 miles per hour." And it'll be nothing. You guys will hear nothing. That is something to do with the transmission, obviously, from our backpack unit back to the booth. And that could be signal related, that could be camera related, that could be microphone related. It could be a number of things that could do it. Now, that is 100 times better than it was last year because of our new system, but it's still not perfect. And that's what can be really frustrating is I'll hear the throw, as we call it. He'll throw to me. But then I'll reply, and there won't be anything there. This happened a number of times at MVP. I would throw to Brian and say, "Hey, Brian, what is so-and-so looking at for this lie?" And he'll flip it on, and he'll start replying. And then I'll usually have to make up something. Hint, hint. I'll have to make up something like, "Oh, Brian's in Worcester," or whatever. And that's because we don't hear anything. And I know that something happened. And Brian will then text me and say, "What the F? I had a great piece of insight for you." And I'll say, "Yeah, we didn't hear any of it." It's not perfect. That's what I can tell you. Unfortunately, it's not perfect. Hopefully we get closer to perfect. So you're right. That's where a long pause can come in. I do my best to then recover because nobody likes that. Nobody in production. Brian hates it. I hate it. Nate Perkins hates it. We all hate it if it happens. And production hates it, of course. But something failed at some point, and it's frustrating. Does Kenny have any intention of playing the Florida Open? I don't think that he does, but I can't say that for sure. Danny Whitaker, come play in Singapore. Wait, Danny, come play in Singapore? Is that the same Danny I randomly ran into at the airport on my way here a few days ago? I'm confused, Danny. But yeah, Singapore is pretty awesome as well. Maybe is it possible that's a different Danny Whitaker? There's two Danny Whitakers in disc golf? I agree, Teza. Love you, Kinga. Hope you're doing well. Kingsley Flett often writes for Ultra World and does insane photography and is an all-around, might be one of my, I was going to say favorite, smartest people I know. You're in a small club there, Kinga. Luke, hopefully that answered your question. Now we say a follow-up to that. Live Golf takes that field reporter and makes it a second play-by-play guy, reading lies, wind direction, and so on. Thanks for the insight. And I think we could do that more often. I think specifically if it's a par 3 where someone in the field sees the throw, where it lands and then how it's relative to the basket. I think we dabble in that once in a while. I think Nate did that today, someone said. Nate Perkins was called on. He basically called an entire hole. I would love to see more of that as well. It gives the commentators in the booth a break, and it gives a unique perspective for me to be like, hey, Earhart, we're here on hole 8. Take it away. And then Brian just calls exactly what he's seeing in front of him on all of hole 8's drive at Maple Hill, as an example, where he sees the tee, he sees the pin, he sees the OB. We dabble in that, and I'd like to see us do more of that. Hopefully that answers you. 2019 USDGC Climo is on the mic. There you go. Going to Thailand again next year? Yeah. Come on. And if you're not, why the hell are you not? Have you not seen the videos? Have you not seen and heard us talking about it? Koh Samui, the island of Samui, along with Chiang Mai. Come on. That's another day. Way better this year, Luke is saying, probably regarding the overall throws and catches of the on-field reporter. I'll tell you this. Here's what it's not. What it's not is, me logged off the call and eating a sandwich somewhere. Like, hey, Terry, what do you see on hole 7 out here? It's not because I'm logged off the call, don't hear that, and I'm taking a break and enjoying some barbecue pulled pork. That's not the case. It's usually I hear it, I try to respond. There's a technology failure. So just to throw that out there, and that's true of all of our players. Never met you, but would love to see you come here before or after Thailand. All right, Danny, that's crazy. I literally at the airport in Chicago, talked to a gentleman, and he lives in my area. Anyway. Did weather have the greatest impact on 2024 Pro Tour schedule and thoughts of elimination? No, and I don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole yet because now we're really pushing time. No, weather had no impact at all. No matter how you schedule, and all I'll say is no matter how you schedule a season, there could be a storm. And I know everyone says, oh, that's what you get for being. No, like no matter where you go, no matter when it is, you can show up on a weekend and get bad weather. I mean, we were in Vegas one year and it literally snowed on us for the first time in like 30 years or something. It snowed on that date in Vegas. Nobody could account for that. And there's times you're in Vegas, for instance, and it's been 80 and sunny and sunburned. And it's also been 30 and cold and windy. And it's been everything in between. I get it. Yes, of course, some parts, we're not going to be in Massachusetts in March. I get it. But generally speaking, the times we're in most places, I mean, if you're in the Midwest, you're in the Midwest. You could get 80 degrees and sunny. You could get 102 with 115 heat index. Like, that can happen. And so weather played no real factor, in my opinion. I don't make the schedule, but in my opinion. Sure, I don't know what you're saying. Way better this year. I don't know what you're saying that to, Darren, but and y'all do well. It's always appreciated. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. All right, guys. You know me. I could talk for another 4 hours answering your questions and rambling, and we get way off subject. That's for another day this weekend. Maybe tomorrow night. I'm going to call it. I want to say thank you to everyone that's joined tonight in any capacity. Like, share, subscribe, do all those YouTube things. If you want to hit the super chat, I mean, I don't know. You can do that or not. I mean, this Founders isn't sponsored yet. So if you want to hit the super chat button, you could do that. Or you can find me on Patreon where I don't usually even post these. But hopefully we'll have some more action for you tomorrow night. I don't believe there's a putting league, and I don't think there's anything crazy going on. So maybe I'll be able to jump on a little bit earlier, and hopefully I'll have even more insight for you. And one of these days, don't hold your breath, one of these days I'm going to be able to feed in a few specific shots and things that we can break down and talk about a little bit more. But you know me. I'm still this silly one-man show. I'm going to call it. I want to thank you guys for joining. This has been a Guess a Drop Zone, and it has been the recap of day number 1 at the 2023 United States Disc Golf Championships, along with the Throw Pink Women's Championship. thank you for being here. I sincerely appreciate all of you guys for interacting, for chatting, for giving fodder and conversation pieces for us to have. If there's something you really want to talk about, you're fired up about, hold on to it, put it in a chat tomorrow night, and maybe we can address it then if I didn't get it to you. That's it. I'm the Disc Golf Guy. We'll see you tomorrow night.